The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and this is a treat. We're back with Joe Corallo. It's been a very long time, Joe.
It sure has been. I promised myself if I had to sit through one more 10-minute video of you answering or rotating the same three questions, I was going to hurl myself into oncoming traffic. So,
well, thank you, Mumbles. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I'm Mumbles.
They have a point, though. At some point, I really should answer the question: what do I think about new characters taking on legacy hero names? I should stop dodging that question at some point, right?
You probably should. You need to start answering more of the really like random questions you get, because you probably get someone being like, "Are you like a whole milk guy, a 2% guy, a skim milk guy?" Like,
I do get some of those. Yeah, I mean, you could say I get things. Why aren't there K-pop comics?
Mm-hmm.
So
there's that kind of stuff. That stuff is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why not? Well, it's good to be back with you. It's been a while. We need to get back to live streams as well. But I think there's been this evolution. Start out comics live stream, and it was comics and drinks, and it was drinks and comics. And I think when we return, it's just gonna be drinks.
That'd be good. Yeah, I still get people like what was it? I think it's C2E2 when I was there. I had a few people like ask me like, when are the live streams coming back?
Yeah. No, they should. We should definitely bring those back. They're so much fun. Yeah. I love them. As you know, they're my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
No, but in all seriousness, my favorite memories of those just watching your mind wrestle with the idea that 600 comic books are being produced this month.
Yeah, luckily things have gotten a lot better these past few months, so it would have been really hard for you to pull one over on me. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything is definitely better. Well, on that note, actually, I've got a bunch of things to ask you, but since it's been a while since we've talked, I wanted to hit the big topics with you that are going. I just get your take on it. So
sure.
Lots of other people we've heard that way, but I don't know how you think. So. First off, I want to get your take on Indiana Jones. Do you have an opinion?
I think Raiders of the Lost Ark was a very good movie. I've seen a bunch, and then they kept making Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, was it all downhill from there, or was Crusade?
It wasn't all downhill. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but like for me at least, none of them were as good as Raiders. Like Temple of Doom has its moments. Last Crusade, I think, is better than Temple of Doom, but it's not as good as Raiders. And then I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters. And again, one of my favorite things about that movie, it's not a favorite thing. I'm not being serious when I say this. Is
that it ended.
Yeah, but he when he goes in the refrigerator, and it explodes, like everyone was upset about that, and I was like, that is not in even my top 5 what the fuck moments in that movie, and that was the one that people like really honed in on at the time. It was like, that doesn't make any sense, and it was like, what about everything else?
Didn't that movie have like zombie monkeys or something in there?
When oh god, I can't believe I'm blanking on that stupid guy's name, because he hasn't been anything in a while.
You mean Mutt?
In anything. Yeah, Mutt. But when he's like swinging and the monkeys are swinging with him, I thought that was dumber.
Yeah, that's much worse than the refrigerator. I agree. Yeah, so the takes on this are kind of crazy, because I see these very elaborate, this is the destruction of the franchise, but honestly that happened a little bit ago with that movie, and like you, I would have been perfectly content if you had Raiders of the Lost Ark and then that was it. I think Crusade was a good movie. I was distracted. I remember as a kid watching that in the theater, and the person sitting next to me had a video camera on their shoulder and was filming it. And so I just remember that very clearly. but that's my memory of this thing. But anyway, so you don't really care, is what I'm getting.
No, I don't care. If I never see it, that's fine. If I see it,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I suspect how most people are landing with it, just in general. But now, kind of related to that, when is Kathleen Kennedy getting fired? What's your guess?
This is gonna sound crazy, but I think at this point she'll probably leave on her own terms.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, comics, really. You brought it up before we started recording, so I want to get your take on this. So did you read this Punisher series?
Yeah, I read. It ended on issue 12, and I read that, and it's based on what I've seen on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
People feel things about that issue of Punisher.
Do they? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's drawing emotion?
Yeah. Not as much as Amazing Spider-Man 26, but.
Oh, yeah. That's we'll get to that in a minute. But the Punisher, this is another one where I feel like my anger was to that title, to the Punisher and kind of things they were doing to the character. I feel like that peaked some time ago, like a long time ago, around the time they made him a supernatural avenging angel of God. Do you remember that?
Yeah, what was it? I mean, you had that. You had
you shot Spirit
Frankencastle.
Yeah.
You had Punisher in space.
Yes.
Yeah, he
Punisher
had
War Machine. Yeah.
Armor, yeah, like
you had Punisher turns black and tricks Luke Cage out of some money.
Yeah. So now, I don't want to, speak out of turn or anything like that.
Sure,
put anyone on the spot, but I am under the impression that maybe people don't know what to do with that character.
I find that wild because there was a comic where Garth Ennis had him punching a polar bear in the nose in a zoo, and somehow that run is considered one of the best the Punisher has ever had.
Yeah, my thing with this is, for people that don't know about this most recent run of Punisher, which I'm pretty sure most people that, watch your videos probably know.
Yeah, probably.
Kind of what's going on. My thing is, why go backwards at all? It feels like, and this isn't just a Punisher problem.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like, and it's not even just a comics problem. This seems like a pop culture problem in general, that characters have the one thing that happened to them, and they keep going back to the one thing. And it gets conflated with this idea of like, oh, we're going back to basics. We're going back to the start. It's like, no, you're retconning. You're going back with a twist. It's not
right.
And does Frank Castle need that twist?
He doesn't.
I think no, because here's something worth pondering. We mostly got the idea of Frank and his relationship with his family from Frank.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, maybe, hear me out.
Sure.
Maybe, no matter what, he's going to think about the good things he lost when his family was all murdered, and not the stuff that wasn't working.
Fair.
So you could always you don't have to actually go back and spoon feed the audience these things of like, what if things weren't perfect? And you could, you could just keep the story going forward, because that's the event. We already know that about Frank. That's already been established. You just move forward.
It gets to a bigger, I mean, with comics in general or media in general. And I've been thinking about this a lot. Do you need,
Yeah.
do we really need characters to be deeper? And I know that there's this desire to, let's give more layers to their personality. And if you give more layers to the personality then and their backstory and their history and all the rest, and here's the thing you didn't know, all of that stuff is supposed to make for a better comic because you have a richer, more complex character. But when the character is a guy who runs around shooting criminals with a skull in his chest and guns, do you really need more backstory? Does it need to be more complicated? Does it add anything to the story to go back and reveal, oh, he was tortured things as a child, and the hand always was looking at him and trying to mold him, and his wife was unhappy, and he slept out on the lawn. Like, does this stuff? What at the end of the day? Does anybody need that when you've got a character whose basic premise is, hey, it's a guy with guns and he's going after some criminals and they may kill him. How's he going to get out of this one? Why do you need anything more than that?
Well, there's with this, like it's. I know this isn't a phrase, but maybe this needs to be a phrase. It's like, enough with the backstory. How about forward story?
I like that. How about forward story?
It's like you can develop the character. People develop not all because of their past, it's because of the future, who they interact with in the future, who they meet, stuff like that. It's like you can pair Frank with someone else in the Marvel universe, and he, gains a new perspective on something he didn't think about, you could just have them interact with different people and you learn and grow as a person, like
Yeah.
life,
Like life.
and just move forward. And you reference that thing comes up maybe every once in a while. If, you have a character who he's, creating some sort of bond with that isn't aware of his past, but it's sprinkled in. It's little bits here and there. It's not, you don't devote a whole story on that same event that's been revisited to death.
Well, again, to go back to that Garth Ennis run that people like, or that sold well, and they've sold a lot of trades. So, and it seems to be, living well, doing well. It's also made them a lot of money.
Yeah.
That story there, I mean, unless I'm remembering it poorly, there were not any flashbacks.
Yeah.
To your point, it was all look forward.
Yeah.
And just Punisher having an adventure doesn't seem that hard. And considering Garth Ennis writes for every single company that ever existed, and probably some ones that haven't existed yet.
Yeah.
He seems to not have any problem just pulling these stories out of his hat.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's like it doesn't seem that difficult to do. The problem is, I think some of it's the marketing, some of it's, well, it's not flashy. Well, you gotta give me something big here to sell, so we'll push it and make it an issue for people to want to pick up, because it has to be the greatest thing ever. It has to be the biggest twist. It's instead of leaning on the strength of the story itself. And this isn't a new problem. I think we would probably agree that the problem's been accelerated, but you go and you listen to interviews with Jim Shooter and David Michelinie and Bob Layton, when they came back to do Iron Man again, they were trying to get push. They were trying to get the marketing from Jim Shooter, and he was like, well, if you want us to push your book, you have to give us a big event, which led to Stark Wars, which everyone calls Armor Wars now. But so this has been going on since the eras that people really hold up, like the Jim Shooter era and Michelinie and Layton on Iron Man. So it's not that it's new, it's just that the problem's it's risen exponentially.
Yeah, okay, I can buy that. I think it's this situation has occurred before, which is basically, rather than just tell a meat and potato story or basic story that people, arguably would want, you have to do something unusual and extraordinary. I think the two things that have happened. So I do agree that it's accelerated. So now every comic is trying to live on that track. Every comic is living. I don't know if you saw Steve Orlando. He tweeted that whatever Scarlet Witch. It's he's hoping it will get to 10 issues. Sales are poor, and that all the comics are like this. And I think there's different levels of that. I think Scarlet Witch in the 90s was going to be a hard push as a comic.
Oh yeah.
In 2023, it's a hard push. Orlando or no.
Getting 10 issues of a Scarlet Witch comic at any point in Marvel history is a stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But I do think, you do have that quick, make a stunt.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, but I think the other part is not only we've seen it over and over and over as people are kind of worn out of it, but we do seem stuck in this repeating pattern. We see this with Punisher where it's like we have to reveal something that's always been there, but you never knew. And that's going to be the hook. As opposed to, the Stark Wars, where there really wasn't that much, again, flashback or retconning of his history. It was still a look-forward event, by and large.
Yeah.
It's just now, it feels like a lot of people are timid to do look-forward events, and instead, they really want to dive into that. You thought you knew what was going on, but turns out you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I'll just hit this on the Punisher with you. So basically, the status quo and spoilers. I know. He's now trapped in Weird World. He's just going to go by Frank, and he's going to, I don't know, give tours to kids. That's kind of what he's up to.
Yeah, because when you elevate a character lately, they either go protect kids in Weird World, or they become the Region of Mars, or they become the Watcher, or they become the Mayor of New York, because that's elevating characters is taking them off the table.
Yeah,
and that's
that makes complete sense.
Yeah. It's weird, but
so basically,
yeah.
If I have this right, so Frank Castle has been transported to a dangerous environment where he's going to groom children. I'm sorry, lead children around.
Yeah, but it's kind of expanding on what you were saying. Like, do we need why do we have to keep retconning these stories? Why can't we look forward and all that? Additionally, does specifically Frank Castle not just need depth or whatever? Like, even pushing that aside, does he need to be a hero?
Yeah.
Why are we making him a tradition? Why are we pushing him to be a traditional good guy?
I agree. I don't, but this is a problem in general with comics, right? You have, you do have this case where villains, you saw it with the X-Men. Let's make Apocalypse a hero. Let's kind of make Mr. Sinister kind of a goofy, vamping, shucks kind of villain. And I mean, they're trying to rehab Omega Red right now. Like at some point, do you think there's a timidness to just have villains?
Yeah, it would be nice if we just had villains. I would love that. It'd be nice if we also just had anti-heroes.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Swift had a hit song on that, so you'd think it would be popular.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, it's like, just why does he have to I mean, Venom, another great example. It's like he's a stalking, violent, brain-eating monster, and let's make him a hero.
Let's make him a space hero.
Yeah, let's make him fun.
We're going to retcon him, and we're going to take him into space and take him off the table. That makes complete sense.
It's called elevation.
That's right.
Literally.
Well, there you go. So there's the Punisher for you. And do you think you'll pick up a comic of the Punisher if they relaunch it again in like a year?
I have no idea where they're going to go with it. There are multiple paths this can go now. One path is, we'll do a mini or maxi series of all of his adventures in Weird World that lead him to coming back, and then we'll launch a new series where it's this new status quo with Frank back in the world where he's got to convince people that he's atoned, and some of the heroes in the Marvel universe are against him, some of them are for him, and like there's a path there where with the right team and the right tweaking could be interesting.
So I don't think we're getting that. So I'll give you my prediction. You tell me if this sounds true. I think we will see nothing for 2 to 3 years from him. He'll be just gone. Maybe there will be an anthology like Marvel's Voices Weird World. I don't know. Where they have a little like a short story where he's like just leading kids around to do something. And I don't know. He looks and has a little tear in his eye when he thinks about his own kids. But really, we'll see nothing for about 2 to 3 years. And then they're going to do an event. And the event will be, I don't know, the Kingpin gets the Cosmic Cube and remakes New York, and who the fuck knows? I don't know. We'll call it something. And midway through that event, the heroes with their backs against the wall will call in a secret weapon. And then the comic will end with, it's the return of Frank Castle, but it's a different Frank Castle. His war is over, and now he has a different war. And he'll be kind of the surprise entrant into this event. As a cliffhanger, let's say for issue 5 of 8. And then after that event's over, we'll get like a one-shot, The Return of the Punisher, which will kind of sort of recap things, but he'll be more of a good guy. And then we'll just have nothing for another year and a half. And then maybe we'll get a series, but it will not really make any sense or relate to anything. How's that sound?
Sounds very plausible. I will throw out one more possibility that I think is very real. Some screenwriter will say, I've always loved the Punisher, but like the Punisher I read from the 90s, and they'll throw everything out that they did and come up with a quick, Doctor Strange, spills tea on the book he's holding, and it erases everything, and Frank's just back, and they act like nothing happened.
Yeah, okay. That checks out too.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. Thank you, Joe. It's all about the Punisher.
Yeah, thank you.